I am here. How are you?
Sometimes that's the best we can do. I'm maintaining.
Okay, well, for the audience, I will say I buried one of my best friends today, and I'm a tad bit emotional. But what I look forward to every week, as you can ask my co host here, is doing this show. So we going to fake it till we make it, if that's all right with y'all. Are you ready to start the show?
Sure thing.
Hey everyone, and welcome to or welcome back to One Man and One Woman, the podcast. I am one half of your co hosts, Tara Michelle.
And I am J. Flan.
So this evening, I want to talk about raising our children. I want to talk about some of the things that we often forget about. So I think most times we'll talk about what our parents and grandparents did to us that we don't do to our children because of the trauma it caused. But tonight I want to talk about some of those things, those sayings, those phrases, those rules that we used to have growing up that we feel like we should probably still be using. Like they weren't so bad and why. So you can start.
Oh, I get to start today. Um, yeah, in the last couple of years, most people that are very close to me would tell you I'm constantly quoting my mother, and I'm calling my mom, every other week or something, and just talking about something I said to somebody that came directly from her. We call them. My sister and I have coined them Flanisms, but yeah, I've been spreading mama's wisdom for quite some time. So a couple that are near and dear to me that she said all the time. Anything worth having is worth working for, and she said that to us all the time, and it has like a two-part meaning. Not just that if something is worth having is worth the work and the effort you put in um, to get it. That something requiring effort or work is not a hindrance to you going to get it. That's if it's worth it, then it's worth the work. Um, it was also sort of like a warning about things that were too easy or that came too easy or came at too low of a price. It might not be worth having. If it's not worth anything, if it doesn't require any work or any effort to get, you may need to look at it or question it. So yeah, that's one of the things my mother said to us all the time that I definitely say to my daughter now and yeah, to other people. I say it at work. It comes up all the time.
That's beautiful. And I agree with that 100%. And yeah, I think that we should be telling our children that a lot of times when anything is too easy, it's a bad idea. Um, and it's so rare that really good things come with almost no work involved. No thought, no processing. So yeah, I love that one. Okay. So the reason this conversation came up for me is because I saw, and I sent this to you on the internet, but there was a guy that was doing a story about a little boy who, when his mother wouldn't open the door for her ex-boyfriend because he was familiar with old dude, he did. And the man shot him in the face. And the guy that was talking about it on the video was just saying, this young like 9-year-old boy is no longer alive because he went to answer the door. I don't know if his mother had told him not to. I don't know if he was just really inquisitive, really hyper, but the man was saying now he understood why his mother used to tell them, you don't answer the door in my house. I answer the door. You let an adult answer the door. You don't just run and answer the door for someone. And I thought to myself, that would be a really great topic. Like, what are some of the things that we used to hear when we were younger that we could still implement today? And I agree with the one that he said. My kids know to look at the cameras and do all of that. And if they don't know who it is, they're not going to the door. So, one of mine is kids need to stay in a child's place. And I used to hate that saying when I was younger, because I was really inquisitive or nosy, if if we must. But I do believe that in this day and age, there are such horrendous things that are going on right now that kids are privy to too much information. We were protected from a lot. Like, that's why most of us didn't know whether or not our grandmothers and grandfathers were actually happy together because they didn't put that in our face and make that our business. We were told to go and play, go and do those innocent things that children should be doing. Quit trying to be grown too fast. So for me, I think a lot more parents should stop having certain conversations around their kids, letting them listen to certain kind of music and movies and even commercials at this time, because commercials come on at 6 o'clock in the evening that are completely inappropriate. But I think it's very important for us to allow children to be innocent and naive as long as we can. There are harsh, cruel, terrible things going on in the world that they'll have plenty of time to unfortunately have to learn about. That I think that while they're children, we should try to protect them from as much as we possibly can. Give them the necessary information. You want to raise your kids to know they're supposed to tell you if somebody touches them inappropriately and stuff like that. But a quick example is when Amaru was 2, my son, he was 2, and the other kids at the daycare, the 2 and 3-year-olds, would have conversations in the morning about the things they heard their parents talking about regarding all the police brutality and the police murders of unarmed Black people. So my son, who used to want to be a police officer when he was a baby, all of a sudden developed a fear of them because of the other 2 and 3-year-olds he was talking to at preschool or daycare, really. I don't, it wasn't even preschool yet, and I never made him privy to those conversations. I didn't play the news in the house for those reasons. And yet, he would come to school and talk to other 2 and 3-year-olds whose parents weren't protecting them from those things and learn those, most heinous heinous of things at 2 years old. So, I think we definitely need to let kids stay in a child's place for sure.
Yeah, I like the phrase for all the reasons that you mentioned. You know, it's rare these days to find kids that are still kids that have not, somehow been thrust into adult roles or assumed them just because of what they've been exposed to. Um, I do know, like for me, just I guess maybe I got PTSD. I think it was used a lot in terms with me to be very, to be dismissive. When you started, I think if your child does come across some information or become, or gain access to something that maybe is beyond their years, it's worth the conversation. You might need to have some, talk to them about it in some way or explain something to them or have some sort of conversation about what their thought process is. I think for me, that's usually where the stay in a child's place thing came in. It was like you're asking questions that are above your station or above your, where you're supposed to be. So shut up. Basically, that's how I interpreted it most of the time as a kid. Was shut the fuck up. And you're gonna go get the information anyway. So just use with care.
I agree 100% with you. Beautiful. Because if you don't answer their questions, that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to go and ask somebody on the street, somebody at school, anybody but you. And I think that as a parent, it should be very important to you to control that information, to give them what you think they need, what's necessary, satisfy that inquisitive nature, and then move on. And hopefully they won't dig deeper and find out anything more than what you've given them. So yeah, I would agree with that caveat. Absolutely.
Some of these questions kids can ask you though, you just like, man, motherfucker, if I could use that safeguard, stay in the child's place.
Tay was in kindergarten and came home and said, "Mommy, what's a lesbian?" And my whole world like just started caving in, and I was like, "What do you mean? Where did you hear that word?" Like it was too much.
For that temptation to just be stay in the child's place, chill out, you
Right?
asking stuff. Like that
No, I
is I
explained it.
understand it. I understand it.
I explained it immediately because I did not want her going to talk to anyone else about it. This was back when on the school bus, I was in a very small town in Illinois, and the school bus took all the kids. So you had kindergarten through 12th grade, whoever was on that bus on that route got on there. So of course the high schoolers are talking about ridiculous mess and all these other things, not paying attention to these small little ears that were listening. So I definitely took the time to, I mean, as best as I could with as much. I just I can feel how freaked out I was by that when she was 5 years old. But I took the time to explain it to her, and it was no big deal. And I'm glad I didn't just tell her to shut up and stay in the child's place. What's your next one?
Um, Another one I think, and this one has guided most of what I do. Uh, Mom always said, "To whom much is given, much is expected." And we hear that a lot in a lot of different ways. What Spider-Man has the whole with great power comes great responsibility or something like that. We hear it in different forms, but it always, what she was trying to tell me, I was always a very smart, kid, and it was, what this gift that you have been given, the gift of intelligence, whatever gift it is that you've been given, is not yours. It was given to the world. Like, you are a gift to us. So go out there and go do that thing and be that thing, and you owe it, sort of to the world to give back. If you're intelligent or you understand things, then your job is to lead and teach, or and if you can sing, then you give us that, and if you can play music, then you give us that, and if you're funny, then you be a comedian and you give us that. But um, to whom much is given, much is expected. When you have been given, when you've been blessed, it's your job to be generous and to give back and to try to help in any way that you can. You don't have to be a superhero to do that.
I used to hear that as a child too, and I also used to hear or used to be told that if you didn't use your gifts, you could lose them. Like, don't be wasteful. Make sure if you have a talent, you have a gift, that you use it and you use it to, like, I think it was like to exonerate the Lord for real. It was like to be humble and be thankful that you were used and in a way that you could give back, in a positive way. So I like that one as well. Um, my next one is kids need to is that the one I already gave? No, yeah, this one I already gave. Kids need to be seen and not heard. However, now this is one I truly hated. But what back in the day, what they were saying was, "We got company over here. Don't play with me. You can come into the room and grab you some water or grab you some lemonade or do whatever, but there will be no jumping into the grown folks' conversation. We don't care about your ideas about anything because you shouldn't be listening to what we're talking about." And just overtly talking back. You know what I'm saying? You don't do none of that. But my caveat on the children should be seen and not heard would be only when company is around. When we're all in the house together as a family, yes, you come talk to me, you ask questions, you tell me whatever you need to tell me, you be that inquisitive, talkative, whatever it is that you are, a child. But when company's around, other adults are around, yes. Because I've been to my friends' houses and their kids come in joining a conversation, and I'm like, this is majorly inappropriate. Why is this child in here while you're talking about who you knocking down every other week? Like I can't even fathom why you think they need that information. So there is a caveat. I don't like to leave it as just children should be seen and not heard. Um, because I feel like that's why a lot of us who were messed with when we were younger, who were molested or worse, didn't say anything. They really drilled seen and not heard into our heads to where we thought we weren't supposed to say anything ever at all unless we were outside with our friends. So I definitely want the caveat to be there that they should be seen and not heard around company, around other adults when the time and the place is not for them. But when we're at home alone and you have things you want to tell me or you have things you want to ask with a beautiful, inquisitive mind, go right ahead.
Yeah, yeah. That's another one I definitely feel. Use with caution. Yeah, I think what happened with a lot of these things is that you know, they came from some of our older Southern parents, some of those slave backgrounds. My grandmother, I think, stopped going to school in like the third grade because she had to come home and take care of kids. I think she was a generation out of slavery, so um, she definitely came from the children should be seen and not heard era, and pass that on to my mom. So I think some of the things were used to an extreme, and then we like threw the baby out with the bathwater. We threw the whole lesson out with the saying because it got abused a little bit. Um, but yeah, I think it's a respect thing. I think definitely what is not being taught today, or what it feels like is not being taught, at least the way it was taught to us, was just general respect, and especially respect for elders. Like, I'm a middle-aged man, if I can use that term, and I still have family members who I would never refer to by first name only. It'll always be cousin so and so, Or I mean, and these are cousins. I'm not even talking about uncles or anything like that. These are just cousins that are so much older than me that you have a title, and there's certain things I'm not going to do or say around you because I'm an adult, but you're still like an adult. But I that was taught to me, and I carry that on now. So I think like you teach kids respect, and then they know how to respectfully interject if they need to say something. They know how to respectfully get your attention. If they have something that they just got to get off their chest. But yeah, I'm good
Is
with that.
that y- is that your answer to mine? Because that's like
What's that?
it sounds like you responded to mine and then gave a whole nother answer. So is that just your response to children being seen and not heard?
I was just talking about being seen and not heard. That's all I was talking about. Did I give
Okay.
another
What's
saying?
your Do you have a next one?
The other
Another
one
one?
that people hear me say all the time, my mom said was, and please, people, if you listen to nothing else I say tonight, listen to this one. Always tell me because I was a little kid, little chubby face, short, nerdy kid, so I got picked on a lot, and I come home complaining about what people would say about me, and my mom would tell me Jesus Christ was perfect, and they crucified him. So what chance you think you got? Like waiting on the world to love you or depending on that for some reason. It don't matter what you do. If there are people out there that are going to choose not to like you, and you're gonna have to be, come to terms with that. You're gonna have to be okay with that. Because yeah, Jesus Christ was a perfect human being, and they crucified him. So it doesn't matter how good a person you are. It doesn't matter what you do, how much you try to impress people, how much you try to say the right things, all this virtue signaling and all this posting and stuff to try to convince people. It really, at the end of the day, doesn't matter. What matters is who you are, not this person that you try to present or not what anybody else thinks that you are. And you can't control it. So, like, come to terms with it and be okay with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that saying, and it's one that I use with my youngest because he's really pretty much the only kid that I've had. Well, my first two had a little taste of bullying when we moved from that small Illinois town back to St. Louis because St. Louis children are just hoodlums and heathens. So it was a culture shock for them to be thrown into, which is crazy because their culture shock came from being the only black kids in an area to coming down here being articulate and intelligent and being made fun of by people who look like them. They didn't get picked on and taunted by the white kids. But when they came back amongst people that look like them, that's when they had to deal with drama. That is something that will always blow my mind. But I do agree. That is something that it's a beautiful saying because there's so many children who are bullied every day, and it just matters so much to them what other people think about them. These people who are in their lives for 5 seconds. Once you leave this school, you might never see them again. These people mean nothing. And most of the times, these little ugly ass kids are miserable themselves or being bullied at home themselves. So they come out and project that heinous, ignorant behavior because that's how they were raised by their ignorant parents, or they're ignored by their parents and their siblings or somebody's torturing them. So they feel the need to go and find somebody that they can torture. So you have to figure out who you are and be happy with who you are and understand that you could be minding your happy go lucky business and somebody will have something to say. And never should that hurt, bother, or control you in any kind of way. So I do agree with that one. Now, in terms of my last one, you stole it. You do this all the time. I've said this on many other shows, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. I am a big boy. Let me tell you something. Believer in kids being respectful. It is Miss or Mister or Mrs. Whomever. It is yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. There will be no huh, yeah, what? When somebody call you, boy, I'm talking about slapping you into next week. Don't play with me and don't embarrass me. You have to have manners. You have to have respect. I think if we instill that in children more, you wouldn't have these children attacking elderly people for simply being on their porch and saying, hey, don't be so loud or stop playing in the streets. But because we haven't taught these children to respect their elders, they look at their elders like somebody they can beat up, they can attack, they can kill. for that matter. So I think that manners are something that we definitely need to bring back with these children. Let them know there is a hierarchy for real. If you are a child, you speak to an adult with respect. You do. Like I don't when I see, and there's a certain type of people that I've never known a black person in my life to call their mother and father by their first or last name. But I have a lot of white friends and even some Indian friends, like from India, not Native Americans, but India, who call their parents by their first names. And it is such a shocker to me to this day. Like when I see people who are old, it's Mr. This, Mrs. That. It's just a respect. And they could just be like, I'm 44. They could just be like for real, because I see 44 is so far back from 50 because I really want it to be. They could be 50, 55, and I'm still Mrs. or, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. I don't feel any kind of way. It doesn't cheapen me. It doesn't lessen me. It doesn't weaken me. I actually feel empowered representing my grandmother because they know I was raised right. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one we need to bring back. Act like you was raised right. Like, just remember that you representing more than yourself.
Most of them weren't, though.
Remember that you representing more than yourself when you walk these streets. But yeah,
Exactly.
you know, I don't know.
Exactly. Because if you know you got a good mom or a good dad or both, when you go out here and you make these decisions, like now with the school shooters, which I always thought was a good thing anyway, these parents are facing charges and being prosecuted and being jailed for leaving those things out. And being irresponsible parents and letting you get a hold of these things and go do what, the heinous things that you're doing. So I do believe that when you move about, you should always think, I'm representing my mother or my pastor or my teachers or whoever your mentors are by the way that you move. And maybe if people thought about that before they did things, they wouldn't do some of the things that they go out here and do.
And respect was definitely was part of the culture. I remember watching an interview with Busta Rhymes not too long ago where he talks about being in New York and them being out on the block doing whatever it is they was doing, smoking weed, whatever activities we know was happening at the time. And if an old lady walked up with her groceries, you put the weed out. Somebody stopped. The music got turned off. You grab the groceries. You're gonna get her upstairs. Make sure she's okay. Everything she's tucked away, and then they go back to whatever they was doing. And if you was on that stoop when that old lady walked up and you didn't turn the music off, or you didn't put the weed out, or you didn't go to help, then you were gonna be disciplined. That was a problem. We were gonna handle you because that's not how we act. So that definitely was a part of the culture, and there's no reason we don't have to like somehow associate this rebellious gangster lifestyle with being disrespectful. No, those two things definitely went hand in hand.
Absolutely. Say that again for the people in the back. Okay, the next part of this conversation that I want to have, I've already told you about, but my daughter, who's in private school, recently got accepted into all of the secondary schools that she applied to. She made her choice. And when we went to go and have the meeting at her school, one of the things they told her, they said, Olivia, we know we understand that you're happy about getting into your first choice, all of our choices really, but your first choice. And we know that you want to celebrate, but there are still some other students who didn't get into their first or second choices, and some who were still waiting to see what's going to happen with them because maybe they didn't get into any schools and they may be headed back to public school. So when you get your new apparel from your secondary school, your hoodies or your head bows or whatever you have, we just ask that you not wear them yet because those other students aren't placed yet and don't know what's going on and they may feel away. And I thought to myself, I didn't say anything in the meeting, but I thought to myself, how cruel is that? Here we go again. This is just like the participation trophies. You want to know why we have so many school shooters nowadays? It's because everybody gets a trophy. No one's getting told no. Nobody's getting a chance to feel what failure feels like, what to not make it feels like, that life sometimes is not always easy. And when you raise these kids, not letting them experience loss, they turn out to be The craziest cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs people ever the first time they hear no, the first time they're denied, the first time they're rejected because they didn't get to experience it in their formative years and learn and grow from it. So to tell my daughter and all of her friends that got in, that worked hard, mind you, busted their tails to get into these expensive, crazy, vigorous, rigorous, whatever schools that they're going to, that they cannot celebrate that by wearing the apparel they're given, by, wearing the backpack they're given or what have you, because they need to watch out for the feelings of other people who didn't work as hard or didn't qualify. It's okay. You shot for a school that was more than what you're capable of at this moment. What's to stop you from going to whatever school next year and applying again after you bulk up, work harder, and get your stuff done? But to tell the kids who rightfully should be able to celebrate and be happy about their accomplishments, to dumb themselves down or to mute themselves, this is what we're doing wrong. It's too much coddling. You need to feel what it's like to not get what you want. It makes you a more well rounded person, a more sensible, sound mind person, I think. And it just ticked me off a little bit that was, you're asking those kids not to celebrate their accomplishments to save face for others who did not do what they needed to do. I think it's total BS.
Yeah, I mean, I can see your stance on it. Yeah, I don't know. I'll probably leave it there. I don't know what I would do in that situation.
No, 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 no. You're not getting off that simple and easy. You think it's okay to tell kids that they cannot celebrate their accomplishments because other children that didn't meet the mark might feel a way? Like, how is that fair? That's almost like me being the only woman in the office with a man. And then when I get married, not being able to tell anybody, not being able to wear my ring to work, not being able to put any pictures up in my desk or in my office or my cubicle because the rest of these people are single. That makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, again, I see how you see it that way. I think that it's a more nuanced discussion. It's not quite as black and white as that. I know as an adult, there are situations that you end in where you land in where to celebrate to celebrate openly in a certain situation is not the move to make. It's not. Yes, and it doesn't mean that you're not deserving of being able to celebrate. It doesn't mean that you don't have the right to celebrate. It doesn't mean you're wrong if you do. But sometimes, you know,
Give me an example. And you said adults. I'm talking about children.
I understand what you. I'm not trying to argue this point with you. Like I say, I understand
I mean,
why
I
you
don't
feel
want
the
to
way you
argue.
feel.
I just want to be enlightened because nothing, no way that I've thought about it
I
makes
don't.
sense to me to tell a kid they can't wear a hoodie to the school they got accepted in. Now, you can't go, ha ha ha, I got in, you didn't. No, 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 not need your butt whoop. Don't be ignorant. But to say don't bring your apparel that you've gotten, your headbands, your book bag or whatever, because some other kid might get upset, let that kid get upset. If you're upset, then work your butt off next year and then apply again, and now you'll have a hoodie and you'll have a backpack. But to tell these kids to mute themselves and not celebrate their victory is total bullcrap.
Okay.
All right, well, that was all I had on the subject. And since you're refusing to talk about the subject, did you have anything else you did want to speak on?
No, just like I said, a lot of the things that we got from our parents. If you were lucky enough to get things from your parents, uh, I know I went through a period where the initial instinct was almost to rebel against so much of that because I was so angry and upset about living under the tyranny of a parent of a black mom. But if you get a chance to stop and reflect and you see the usefulness, some of that stuff that you still use in your life today, and pass it on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I stand by that 100%. I want to say to the parents out there who did the best that you could and you led with love with your children, and you didn't blame your mistakes and your downfalls on them. Those people who nurtured the best they could, thank you, because you more than likely put some really good, sound mind and sound body people out into the world for me to end up having to act, what is the word I'm looking for me to be able to interact with? That's the word, interact with. And I can appreciate your effort. We don't always get it right. There is no book or guideline. A lot of people have written books about parenting, but they don't know what the hell they're talking about because every kid is different, every household is different, every mother and father situation is different. So you take it as you can, but if you did your best and it was always based in love, even sometimes if it's fear, because I know and I understand loving your kids so much, wanting to protect them from everything. That's not always the way to go. But if it was rooted in love, I appreciate you. Even if your children are going through a phase right now where they're not letting you know that I appreciate you because I understand this thing called being a child and being a mother with children. And it's hard. And it's hard. And we harp on all the things they did wrong all the time. I just am afraid that sometimes we don't let our parents know. My mother did absolutely nothing right. First of all, let me just say that. But and neither did my father. But to my grandmother, she didn't always get everything perfect, but she did her best. And that's why I love her the way that I love her now. So I think we need to let our parents know if we had good parents or our grandparents or aunts or whoever raised you. Let them know about some of the things they did right. Make sure you're not always harping on what they did wrong. If they did something right, let them know. All right, everybody, this was a great episode, I think. I want to hear from you guys. If you're listening to my voice, come to wherever you can find us. You can come and find me on YouTube. You can find us on YouTube, One Man, One Woman, the podcast. What's the website? Do you remember? Is it
1M, 1W.
1m1w.com?
Yep.
Perfect. Come find us. Come tell me if you think I'm right about this. Do you think it's okay to silence kids who have made major accomplishments in life just because other kids may not have? I just feel like I just don't like that at all. And I want to hear your thoughts. So come and get at us and let us know what you think. Remember, until you hear us next week, to always be good to yourself and kind to others. Holla.
Holla.